Vince Clortho, Keymaster of Gozer. Is that who you want to be this Halloween? Well, stay tuned. We're going to show you how to build one of these. When you take a look at the spreadsheet of connections, it's going to have a few rows. The first row says starting point, and the first one that you're going to put in is a 2A1. And when I look at 2A1, I just happen to know that this is star 2, and this is A, and that would be 1. So it's this one right here, 2A1. The other thing that it's going to tell you is what size of screw to use, what type of connector to use, and what insulator goes on it. After that, it'll tell you the wire color and the wire length, and then it'll say what's at the other end of that wire. In this case, it's a 6-rib insulator with a same blue connector. Now, the easier way to put this all together would be to actually do the wire first. So crimp both ends of the wire, and then when they're crimped, when you're putting them onto the insulators, it'll be a little bit easier than trying to crimp them when they're on the helmet. So let's crimp these. This is 16 to 14, no, it's 22 to 20, there we go. Now I like to put it so that the wire is, I don't strip the insulation off, and I put it so that the wire is sticking out just a little bit, and then give it a good squeeze. Nice and flat, really good, it's not going to come out of there. And we'll do that at both ends. It's nice to start with a nice easy one. There we go, good squeeze. And these crimpers are the cheapest $4 crimp tools that you can get at any automotive hardware store. Alright, so now we've got our wire done. The wire goes from 2A1. Now, the other thing that's written there is, it says it's a 3/4 inch 632 screw, and it says nut in. Why does it say nut in, Phil? Well, you can have it so that the screw head is facing out, or the screw head comes from the inside. I noticed on the original in the film, some of them, the screw head was out, and some of them were in. I spent hours looking at this and figuring it out, so when it says nut in, it means the 632 nut belongs on the inside of the helmet. So the first one says it's a 2-rib, so we've got 2-rib insulator. We're going to take our 632 screw. Because the nut is in, the screw head's on the outside, so we've got this together. We'll put it into 2A1, and the nice part about the holes on this, they are just the right size for a 632 if you use a screwdriver to screw it in. It's fantastic. Now don't screw it in too tight or you'll strip it, but that's not a big deal. It's just get it in for now. So I'll put the nut on here. And as far as tightening the nut, you can use almost anything. I use a little pair of needle nose pliers, but frankly, you could use almost anything your heart desires. You may even find that your fingers are tight enough. There we are. Reasonable. Yeah, that's pretty tight. So, we've got our first one in. And it says that it goes to blue loop at 2B1. Well, this is still 2. AB1 right here. So that is, and on this one it says nut out, which means that when we're putting the screw in, we'll put the screw from the inside. I can do this by hand. That's how good the hole size is. Pretty lucky. I'm sure that's why they used it in the film. It's fairly obvious there. We've got the screw sticking out. The insulator, yeah, sometimes you'll have to, put them on a little bit hard because the 3D printer will leave a little bit of plastic around the edge. Put on your connector. And then the nut. I wouldn't worry about tightening these all up yet, because we're going to have to figure out exactly which direction they're going in. I believe this one goes somewhat like that. And in the last, there's some special notes at the end of this. And the special notes say 2A1 needs a tie wrap to gather the wires from the connector. So what's going to end up happening, there's a lot of long wires that follow the tail, like the ribbon cable tail. And this is where they were attached in the movie, was on this particular insulator. Pardon me. So what we're going to do is attach a tie wrap here and then just put a loose tie wrap on it so that we can string them through as we're putting it together. So I took the time to figure out where the blue wire goes, and it actually comes up over the center in that area and then back down. So you know what, just play with the wire a little bit, get it in the right place, and that's about where it goes. Now when we're putting the tie wraps on 2A1, loop one of the tie wraps, these are 6-inch, loop one of the tie wraps very loosely, that's the one you're going to be putting through, putting all the wires through, and the second one is actually going to go around the insulator in the center. And make sure you get this tie wrap in there as well. Get around the insulator in the center. Hopefully you can see a little bit of that. Get this one up. There we go. Nice and tight. And if you want to tighten tie wraps, easiest way to do it, I find, with pliers. You probably can't hear that, but every time I hear a little click, I know it's getting better. And there we go. We've got a nice loop attached. Now, getting rid of this tail on the first tie wrap, easiest way of doing it is with some flush cut pliers, flush cut cutters. They cut very near the edge, so you can get those right up to the edge. And if you don't have flush cut, you know what, use something else. And instead of cutting with it, cut like this, and it'll make it a little less sharp. Because sometimes these tie wraps are made of nylon and they can be pretty sharp. All right, so now you've got the attachment. The first piece is done. So the first wire, the blue, comes up, looped like that, and you'll be putting other wires on top eventually, so close enough, something like that. The second one that comes up here says it's R1, and R1 is between 6AB. That's it's this end of the RH50 resistor. What else does it say? It says we go from R1, it's RH50, it's a blue spade connector, so one of the spade connectors. Blue spade connector, it's a blue wire, 31 inches. Oops, just happen to have a 31-inch wire here. And it also says there are 21 windings. Well, 21 windings. What would you use? The most common thing that you could possibly find to make windings on? Pencil. And that's the size of the loops that I saw. So generally, if you want to start, you leave a little bit on the end, and then just start winding. 1, 2, 3, 4. 21. So I've got 21 and I got a little bit left over. I think I may have cut the wire a little bit too long. There we go. Make it tight. Tighten it up nice. Pull it off and you have a wonderful loopy wire. So we're going to put 2 spade connectors on it. And you know what we do. Again, same as last time. put it so it sticks through just a little bit. Crimp. And this one, I'm actually going to cut it a little bit. I think it was 2 inches too long. Another spade connector. The ones in the kit will not be 2 inches too long. There we go. Crimp. And where does it say it goes? It says it goes from the orange one, which was between 6AB, 6AB, so it goes between here, and you'll see that it fits on the resistor nicely, and then it goes to the CalR resistor at 6E3, and that one is right here. So what I've done is I've said, okay, if this is the end, 6E3, it actually doesn't go to this this screw, it'll go to this end of the resistor. And I remember this one, it's kind of a big coily thing that goes in here like this. So we'll coil it up for now. Oh, and see what happened? I pushed a little too hard and the center came out. Just push that. Hold that in while I'm pushing this one. And then the wire, of course, moved. Oh. Now, I knew that could happen, and if you want, you can crazy glue them in. I don't bother. Alright. Well, the next one we're going to do after that will be R2. R2 is the other side of the same resistor, and it's a slate wire. Why do we call it slate? Well, it's an old telephone company thing. Green and gray would both be GR, so they called it slate. White, red, black, yellow, violet, blue, orange, green, brown, slate. That's the resistor, telephone company color code. So, this one is 20 inches long, which you saw the measurement a second ago, and it's 13 loops in it. So, leave about an inch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, 13 and a half. There we go. Make it nice and tight. And there we go. Now one end is spade, the other end is a blue loop. I'm going to put those on right away. Same as all the others. Let the wire stick through a little bit. Oh, there we go. Get that crimp. Nice and solid. The other end is a loop that's attached to a 1 1/4 inch screw and a 6 rig insulator. I've already put it together, but I'm going to shove it in here. Maybe the insulator will fall off, maybe it won't. There we go, good squeeze. Alright, now we'll put this on. First one again. You're taking a look at it. There, nice. That worked out good. And the other one goes to, it was 1B1. Now 1A, B1. 1B1. Oh, I can get it started by hand. I'll use a screwdriver. Screw it in. The next one is R3, and it's the RH50 resistor end closest to star 3. And it is, let's see, a blue spade on a brown 17-inch wire with 10 loops. Oh, lo and behold, a brown 17-inch wire. My trusty loop maker. How many loops did I say? I said 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and yes, I did 11. But when it stretches out and you take it off, it'll be 10. Alright, so there's 10 loops. Actually, I'm just going to wind another one on there. There, that's about the right height. There we go. So, one end, again, spade, connector, The other end goes to 3B1, and that's 6-rib connector with a blue loop crimp connector. So that was all great. I did this, and with a blue loop connector, all good. What I didn't do was read to the end, and it says this also has an orange wire connected to it. I should probably read the next line too. And the orange wire goes to 3B1. It's got a blue loop on it. It's 37 inches long, and it has 0 windings. And that one is where we're going to start putting them through here. So I'm going to have to take this off. There's my orange wire that's 37 inches. Well, we have the races. Let me see if I got this right. 27 inches. Very good. My measuring tape is still sitting on the floor. Alright, so I need a blue loop. Crimp that. Done. That looks pretty good. I crimp them flat this way rather than sideways like this. I think it looks better. Personal preference. Now I gotta undo this one. There we go. Take that off. Now it would be really tough to tell you which one goes on top and which one goes on the bottom, because when these are together, it's so thin you can't tell. So from the screen, at whatever resolution that we had, there was no way for me to tell, so I'm just going to put it there. Oh, now where did it go again? Right here. This one was 3B1 again. Not on the other side. So there's the first one with 2 on it. I'm going to take a quick peek to see which direction this goes in, because it does end up over here. Yeah, take a look at the magic done one. That's always handy to have. And there's a lot of pictures that'll be posted. This one just goes direct. That's pretty easy. There'll be a lot of pictures posted, well, there are already pictures posted on the Thingiverse site with the finished product. So if you're ever having any questions about where the wires go exactly, you can take a look. It was painstakingly done, let me tell you. So now we'll get this wire. It just goes pretty much direct through the big loop. And for now, just leave it through the big loop, loose like that. There's a reason for it. Once we get all our 21 wires through here, we're going to be putting them through these to make them look like a ribbon cable. Now R4, the other side of this RH50 resistor, is an interesting one because it really only has a connection on one end. So we've got a blue spade connector on one end. We're going to crimp that. Of course, I get to put the number of turns on the first, and it has, let's see, R4 green, 15.5 inches, 9 turns. The interesting one with this one is it's a dead end at the other end. What ends up happening is you roll it into another green wound wire that's in the same vicinity. That'll happen later. It's going to be one of those finer details. There we go. All right, beauty. Sometimes I think my lines are a little bit tight. There we go. We'll probably unwind the end to get it onto the other one. And here we are. We'll let this one float for now. Put it on there. working on very well one way. I think it's because the ends of the wires on these resistors are sometimes a little bent in one direction, so if you just flip it the other way, it'll go on easily. Looking good. What's next? The next one is a 28-inch red wire that goes between R5, Cal R resistor, and the south end of the Sage resistor. And the south end of the Sage resistor says 3C5. We have two Sage connectors that we're going to put on each end of this. Oh, and how many turns is this one? 20. 20 turns with the pencil in between. Done. Now I calculated about 1.5 inches before the turning starts. I usually have to get another 1 and a bit in there, but it does unravel a little bit anyway when you take it off. So get them so they're about 1 inch and a bit off, regardless of how many turns, and what you'll find is when you let go, it spins off and you get the right number. So, the south end of this Cal R resistor. So I think you get the general idea of how this is working. Go to the spreadsheet, find out what it says, and if you want to know exactly what they look like on the unit itself, it'll be really easy to take a look at the resistors, get your bearings with the photographs that are included in the Thingiverse file, and then you'll be able to say, oh, okay, this one's, curled up this way. Like this, the gray one here will look nothing like this in the end. It'll be sprung out quite far. So start by getting them all on, and then worry about where they are after. It's easy enough to move things around. So continue on. Now that we've gotten to 1A1, the 7.5 inch white wire, this is the one where you use a 1 inch rather than a 3/4 inch screw with the 2-ribbed conductor. The reason for that, you put one nut on to hold it in place. Then you get one of your Vinz ears. And there's a flat side. Put the flat side towards the first nut, and then put on a second nut afterwards. And you can tighten that down. This is to hold on the chin strap holder, and it'll swivel. So now that it's almost done, there's a few bits of cleanup for the wiring to do. And do you remember we talked about this one wire off the
RH50 resistor that really had no place to go. Well, there's another green wire here, and what we end up doing is we just wind it with that green wire, and voila, it is now a combined green wire piece. And that is how the original was. At least that's what it looked like from the TV. So when you take a look at some of the pictures, you can adjust some of the heights. You know, some of these will be a little bit higher, or they'll sweep sideways and backwards. There's little bits you can adjust like that. The next thing that we're going to do, and the reason why we left this tie wrap so loose, is so that we can turn them into 2 ribbon cables just like on the original.